In Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather, we follow Don Vito Corleone, the head of one of the powerful 5 New York crime families, as he looks to protect his family from all harm. With him growing older and sicker, he transfers control of his dynasty to his son Michael Corleone, who succeeds his father and builds on his work, cementing control over the entire New York underworld and then moving on to expand the empire with casino ventures in Nevada and in Cuba. In The Godfather Part II, we follow the continuing tribulations of Michael, but simultaneously the rise of Vito Corleone from humble immigrant grocery worker to small-time crime boss to mafia don. Through our encounters with young Vito, we see that though he isn't afraid to use violence and force when necessary, his connections and his power is built through respect, and he values family and friendship above all. This is in stark contrast to Michael, who admits himself that the people who work for him are businessmen who are working for money, and his reign is one of ruthlessness and coldness, with Michael inadvertently pushing away and destroying his family in the name of, ironically, protecting his family, such as the alienation of his wife Kay and his son Anthony. One could argue that Michael perhaps faced tougher tests than his father Vito, so the comparison isn't strictly fair, but that's a discussion for another video. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date, and you can also become a channel member for early access and exclusive videos. In the second film, an assassination attempt is carried out against Michael, who narrowly escapes. Michael works out that it was his business partner Hyman Roth who tried to have him murdered, and this is something he supposedly works out very quickly. What Michael spends much of the film's runtime trying to figure out is who within his own administration worked with Roth's people, who among his own betrayed him. And of course, it turns out that the traitor is none other than Fredo Corleone, acting mainly out of spite and jealousy that he was stepped over and his younger brother was put in charge of the family, with him now having the chance to do something for himself. By now, Michael is a very changed man from the one we saw arrive at Connie's wedding with Kay all those years ago in the first film, and given events and pieces of dialogue in the second film, even after ostensibly forgiving his brother, there is a strong suggestion that Michael will actually kill Fredo for his betrayal. But surely he won't go that far, dear viewers. But of course, in the end, after his mother is dead, he does. And once Fredo sleeps with the fishes, we are treated to a flashback when the family was like the Roman Empire, and we end with a shot of Michael sitting alone in contemplation. Michael killing his brother Fredo is the most shocking event in The Godfather Part II, a completely stunning act of merciless coldness. We can debate amongst ourselves whether killing Fredo was justified or not, whether Michael had to kill him, otherwise he'd be shown to allow betrayal. But ultimately, the murder of his blood brother is what destroys Michael. From here on in, there is no return. From starting the movie telling his wife the Corleones will be legitimate in several years, to throwing his wife out of the house and ordering the death of his brother, Michael Corleone has truly lost his soul. What I wanted to discuss today is an interesting hypothetical situation, and that is, what if Fredo's betrayal had occurred under Vito Corleone, while he was in charge of the family? Obviously, if Vito was alive, but in the semi-retired phase he was in at the end of the first film, no doubt Michael would wait until his death before making his move against Fredo. But what if Vito was in charge of the family? How would he handle Fredo's betrayal? How would he punish him? Would he murder his own son? Now, right off the bat, it's important to make a point. Fredo was an idiot, and it's possible that he didn't understand the full repercussions of his betrayal. But as later revealed, he was motivated by a desire to do something for himself for a change, resenting the way everyone thinks of him as dumb, highlighting that he's aware of his reputation. He reveals his resentment at being stepped over after Sonny's death, with Michael being groomed by his father as the next Don of the family. So there were clearly ulterior motives. It wasn't just a case of Fredo being dumb. Now, the point I'm making is that he's motivated by jealousy of his brother becoming the Don. So if Vito was in charge and Fredo was working under Vito, he wouldn't even have the motivation to betray the family in the first place. So the argument is actually redundant. Plus, you would imagine, given his excellent judge of character, that Vito would have kept Fredo close to him, kept him under his wing, like having him as his driver, which Fredo looks comfortable with. He'd keep an eye on him, and if he noticed any resentment creeping up in his son's character, he would deal with it accordingly. Vito was always 3 steps ahead, and he knows his children. He knew Sonny was fooling around with a girl, for instance, and the book actually tells us that when Michael went off to fight in World War II, Vito was still pulling the strings from a distance, ensuring his son was as safe as possible. Vito would have seen all the angles and accounted for them. Fredo would likely never have even wanted to betray the family under Vito. He wouldn't have the audacity in the first place, and if he did, Vito would nip in the bud. But let's say it happens anyway. Would Vito kill his son? Well, you may disagree, and let me know in the comments below if you do, but though I feel Fredo's betrayal would emotionally shatter Vito even more so than what it did to Michael, it would devastate him and he would never look at his son the same way, and it might even prompt a change in Vito's character. But I cannot see Vito killing Fredo in any way, shape or form. In fact, if Vito would kill Fredo, it undermines the entire point of The Godfather Part II, with Michael committing this unholy act. If his dad would have done it in the same situation, it defeats the purpose of the film. That Michael went too far, that he gains the world but he loses his soul. That's one of the whole points of the film, Michael murdering his family to protect his family, an irony that was lost on him due to his tunnel vision and blindness. What would be the point in showing Vito's rise to power and the importance given to family if he had been willing to have his own son whacked? Vito's philosophy was rooted in love and respect, and it's likely his children would have maintained these core family values under him. It was only after the patriarch's death that the Corleone family began drifting apart, so again, Fredo wouldn't have had the urge to betray the family under Vito. But killing a son would be considered an infamia, and Vito would have never even considered it, as it defeats the purpose of what he does in the first place. It's highly implied that Vito was aware Carlo betrayed the family and set up Sonny to be killed, and he chose not to exact revenge as not to make his daughter a widow. So if he wasn't willing to kill a scumbag like Carlo, why would he kill his own son? Regardless of his faults, regardless of his weaknesses, his failure to protect his Don, Vito's anger at Fredo's lifestyle in Vegas, which the book tells us, Vito does love his son. Think back to the devastation on Robert De Niro's face when young Vito sees Fredo with pneumonia crying. I somewhat remember an interview, I can't seem to find it now, by Coppola where the director, who by the way agrees that Vito would not have killed Fredo, imagines a scene in the afterlife where Vito and Michael meet and Vito confronts Michael, asking him if he listened to his heart as well as his head, with that being the key difference between the two men. Vito thought with his heart and head, Michael with just his head. So if not murder, then what? Well, I have heard one suggestion that Vito might guilt Fredo into killing himself, harakiri style, but I don't really see that happening either. I don't see Vito making his wife lose another son if he can help it. It could be that Vito forces his son to make amends by going against Roth, perhaps sending him on a suicide mission like Rocco Lampone in the second film where he makes up for his mistake but likely dies in the process. But again, Vito wouldn't willingly have his son killed. Plus, Fredo would probably botch the job anyway. I can see Vito publicly accepting Fredo's excuse of him not knowing it was going to be a hit. It could damage Vito's credentials, but he's made similar sacrifices for his family before. He'd accept Fredo's excuse, but deep down would know the soul-crushing truth, but would not bring himself to harm his son given his sentimental weakness for his children, as he mentions in the first film. The most likely outcome I can see is that initially Fredo would be given a stern talking to by Vito. While Fredo blubbers, Vito would extract from him just what Roth wanted and how much he knows, and once this is done, Fredo would be exiled. Perhaps he would be sent to Sicily, never to see his family again. It does seem like a popular destination for the Corleones when someone needs a time out. Fredo would likely be dismissed from both his family and the family, a bit like what Michael did anyway with the "you're not a brother, not a friend" speech, before Michael feigned forgiveness and then killed Fredo. Maybe Fredo would be given a business far removed from the main Corleone enterprise, where he couldn't hurt anyone, but seeing as though they pretty much did that in the first film, that option had already been exhausted. Perhaps then, a small-time job in the legitimate world, dismissed from all family business and forced to work the working man's life. Perhaps over the years, Vito's anger towards Fredo, which I'm not undermining by the way, I think he would be livid that Fredo put everyone's life in danger and went against Vito's values. I mean, remember the scene after Vito was shot when Fredo enters the bedroom and Vito doesn't even look at him? But after many years, if he was still alive, Vito's anger at Fredo may have dwindled. Maybe he would be allowed at future family gatherings and such, but Vito would never trust him again. All in all, I think exile would be Vito's decision, most likely in Sicily, where Fredo would perhaps live in disgrace. How do you think Vito would handle Fredo's betrayal? Let me know in the comments below. I don't see him entertaining the idea of killing Fredo. I think a far more ambiguous question is what would Sonny do if he was Don and Fredo did what he did? But that's a video for another day. Thanks for watching.